Radio.com.
KCAA.
KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM. The Inland Empire's Talk Express coming up next. Don Williamson.
Way down here, you need a reason to move. Feel a fool, running your stateside game. Lose your load, leave your mind behind, baby James. Oh, Mexico, it sounds so simple, I just got to go. The sun's so hot, I forgot to go home. I guess I'll have to go now.
KCAA. Yes, it's time for the Don Williamson Taxsaver and More Hour. I'm Mark Westwood, and we're having a good time, just having a cocktail. We're kind of make-believing that we're in Mexico right now, in the Gulf of Mexico, just having a good time in the warm sun, on a boat, maybe fishing and relaxing. You know, we talk about so many things that are tough. Once in a while, we got to take a break, right? Right, Don?
Now we come down from the build-up of wonderful things to some of the reality things.
That's right, I know. But just for a moment, we needed a break here. I needed a break. So kick that music up for a minute, just one more second.
Baby's hungry and the money's all gone. The folks back home don't want to talk on the phone. She gets a long letter, sends back a postcard. Times are hard.
Oh, down in Mexico. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time. Ladies and gentlemen, Donald Williamson.
Good afternoon, all you radio listeners out there. I want to welcome you to our show. I'm going to cover a number of topics, and we'll get around to the tax saving aspect too. Mm-hmm. But you know, with the fires dying away, they had some pictures in the newspaper that it was titled, "This is like a disaster movie." And, you know, I wouldn't doubt, but what they probably went in and took some they'll probably use.
You know, if they had said in their script, yeah, we're going to wipe out the entire town of Altadena and, a couple other cities as well down by the beach, nobody would have said, they said that's just too much. Yeah. Maybe a few hundred homes, but not an entire city. Yeah. And yet reality smacks truth here. That's what happened.
And now that the fires are over, they're worrying about the cleanup, and there's mud. The mudslides have happened, the rains came, and so one disaster turns into another disaster. And, and then they got all this rubble, which is actually toxic, and what to do about where to put it.
It's just amazing. That's a big now protest down there because they want to put it in a city that has a landfill use. I can't remember the name of the city, but they want to put it there, and that whole city is protesting. But Calabasas, that's what it is. There's a landfill dump in Calabasas, and the people of Calabasas say, no, we don't want it here. We got to put it somewhere. And there was a guy, a Marine, talking about that. Actually, Army Corps of Engineer guy, and I listened to him talk. He says it's better that we contain it somewhere, and we can control it, than just let it be and let the water run off.
Well, you can't do that because it's getting in the ocean and everywhere.
Right. And so, where are you going to put it? Well, we got to find a place to put it. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Anyway,
and they had this rushed wildfire cleanup spurs worry, and that we were just talking about some of the worries. And scammers are lurking to cash in on disasters. Isn't that terrible?
Yeah, people want to take advantage of things. They want to fundraise and say they're fundraising for some lost school or something like that, and they're not putting the money anywhere. That's one scam. The other one is calling up as contractors, trying to get jobs and bid on jobs with, going to get down payments, and then they disappear and that sort of thing. It's a felony, it's a federal crime, and it's a state crime to do this, but they still try.
Here's another headlines. Wildfire survivors scramble to find housing as rents soar.
And that's the other thing that's illegal. You can't raise things more than 10%, especially in a disaster area.
I had one of my current tenants call me up because I got such favorable rents. They won't leave, and their friends want to come aboard. I said, I don't have any vacancies. Nobody wants to move. And I told you before how I got people that's with me 35 years and then died, and then 30 years and 25 years, and we're family, so they won't move. Anyway, then now we're in a cookie season. That's something good. The Girl Scouts are selling their cookies.
Hey, I want to add something real quick to everybody. Yeah. If you're out there in listener land, beware. If somebody calls you uninvited, they don't know. They've gotten your name off a list somewhere. It's better you contact people or get references that are from good contractors and stuff. The best place to start is a well-known organization, the American Red Cross. They don't just hand out free water and paper towels and things like that. They also have information and services to help you if you're in a disaster area. It was kind of neat. In Altadena, the first grocery store opened yesterday. Grocery outlet.
Is Altadena still there?
Altadena, well, parts of Altadena are there, but a lot of stuff burned down. But particularly this grocery store didn't burn down. It just had a lot of fire damage and a lot of smoke damage. So they got in there, cleaned it all out, sterilized everything. Of course, the food was all gone, so they had to get rid of the food and then restock it. But people were so happy and so enthused to be able to walk into a grocery store. Just think of that. We take that for advantage, we take that
for granted.
Per granted. There it is. Sounded like per granted. That we could just walk into a store anywhere and buy what we want and walk out the door. And the only thing we worry about is having the money. Well, in this case, maybe it was about money too, but the biggest thing is just to have a store. And they had a pharmacy open too. One pharmacy, web pharmacy, opened up. And so they were happy about that too. They could get their medications. Think of that. How devastated those people are that they couldn't go to a grocery store. Just the simple conveniences we don't even think about, we just do, are gone.
It's going to take a number of years to recover from all this.
Yeah. One by one they will. One by one they will.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that could be one of our guest speakers.
Maybe George is here.
That's a guest speaker
George
coming up
is
at
here.
the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a seat.
Have a seat, George, and we'll talk to you in a minute here.
Now we're going to get into where I can maybe help some people.
Okay.
But before I do that, I want to give a kudos to the Teamsters Local 1932 on their training classes. Mm-hmm. Now they're probably already in.
They just had one going on last night. I saw they had one going on last night.
Yeah, they had 200 that showed up, applicants, and I understand they have these several times a year.
Oh, it's ongoing all the time.
Ongoing, so.
They have a whole training center.
This is terrific because it was 6 weeks of training, free, absolutely free, and also placement at the end of it was free, and they had courses in it says winter and spring courses available, and they can start a new career, they can get a better job, or maybe they have no job at all, and so that's
it's a great place to start.
And I really think that's a great idea that what the Teamsters
do it. There are other people that do it as well. Steel and iron workers have trainings. Everywhere have training centers, and you can go to one of these local unions. IBEW, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. If you want to become an electrician, go call that union. You don't have to have a job. Call them up, and they'll direct you to where you need to go, or they'll say, "Hey, we have a training class. You can get involved." Become an apprentice. It just takes initiative. Just make it easy on yourself. Go get a job. Well, one of the ways to do that is to go to one of these local unions, like the Teamsters, Teamsters1932.org.
That's right. That's my old. Well, it was San Bernardino County at first.
San Bernardino
And
County Employees Union
Association.
is one of them. They merged with them.
Yeah.
There was always a
they merged
Teamsters,
with
but they
them.
merged with
Yes,
them.
that's right. They merged with them.
And right in this building, right where we're sitting.
So now it's mine.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, here's another one that from the Teamsters, I think it is. Yeah, same
Our
here.
control room, just a little known something. Eric, you know those 4 bolts in the back?
Yeah.
This is their finance area. That was their finance area.
Oh.
Those bolts were safe.
Speaking of safe, then I want to get back to this. The pictures that I saw, I own 2 of these big safes, and I got all these valuables in it. And I got to believe that the people in the fire area had those too, lots of them. And I don't see any of them left. Did those safes all burn to the ground? I thought they had a big high fire rating.
If I'm not sure that they're all gone. If I had a house and it burnt down or was going to burn down, and I had to load my valuables in there, I'd figure out how to get that safe in the back of my car, right?
That thing's bolted down.
Well, some of them, not all of them, but we don't know the circumstances. But I think some probably survived the fire. I don't think they show those things on TV because of all the looting and stuff like that. But I think that some may not have survived the fire either. Just depends on the rating of your safe and all that stuff. So yeah, it's a shame. Lots of stuff was lost, that's for sure.
Well, I know when I was the assessor and we had the 15,000 homes that were lost, some of them were up in the mountains, and when we drove through up there, all you saw was fireplace stacks. No, nothing else, just the stacks, one right after the other.
So why don't we build everything out of those fireplace materials, right?
These bricks, yeah, there you go. But some more kudos here to the Teamsters. It says members engaged, and it's showing here in this. Here, I don't know if I could show that on there for YouTube, but anyway, and it says get involved. Teamsters are making a difference. Schools, coaches, strike lines, community events, radio shows,
There you go. Yeah, it's us.
teaching committees, and much, much more. And
You can find all that information, since we're going to plug Teamsters here, on Teamsters 1932, Teamsters1932.com. Teamsters1932.com. Right there. Let me show you.
that's the centers actually.
Actually, that's the training center,
Yeah.
which is, if you want that information, 1932 starts first. 1932trainingcenter.org, and that's a .org, not a .com. 1932trainingcenter.org. 1932trainingcenter.org. Yeah. George is writing it down over here. I can see that right now. He likes that idea. I don't know how much time. George is going to be one of our guests here. George, what's your last name? Yeah. Anyway, George is going to be one of our guests here. I don't know. Do you have a lot of time? Yeah. Okay, we can take a break and go and bring George in, or we can continue on for the next 10 minutes. What do you want to do, Don?
Well, actually, I did want to get into saving some money
Okay, we'll do that, and then we'll bring George on the second half.
because
10 minutes or so.
since I mentioned about the fires and the mudslides, and by the way, this first forum, which I mentioned before, which is a disaster forum, it's any disaster. Personal, just one owner, his residence burned down. Didn't have to be regional, all the cities and all that. It covers one, and it's not just fires. That's earthquakes, floods, wind damage, blows your whole roof off. It has to be more than 10,000 in damage, but blows your roof off. That's more than 10,000.
We had some damage to the building this last weekend.
Is that right?
Yeah. So
Did
there's
the ceiling fall in?
No. There's a state building directly across the street from us. And if you're on Sierra Way, you'll see that parking lot is raised up considerably, like probably about 50 feet. And there's a slope mountain that goes down from there, and it's all got rock and stuff, and there's a chain link fence across it. And then we're directly right across the street. Well, apparently one of the state security guards was in his vehicle. I don't know exactly how it happened, but it popped into drive or reverse and rolled down that hill across Sierra Way and right into our building. I get a call. The alarms are going off. Who's in the building? Nobody's in the building at that time of the day. No, nobody. Yeah. And so they came down, and there it was, a big old hole in the side of the building. So they've been fixing it all week long here. So I think that's a disaster. Maybe we can get some. Just kidding.
Well, the one thing I'm not sure about is
It was one office over from where I sit.
Even if they did, the insurance is probably going to cover it anyway.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm just making a joke out of it. Everything's okay. It's already almost popped up and tucked in, and maybe the state has some insurance, or it's the state of California versus the Teamsters 1932. Hopefully it never comes to that, but I'm sure the state will pay it off.
But I'm going to go right down my outline here.
Don't let me interrupt you.
Because we get complacent when things are going good. We don't think about disasters,
That's right.
and it may, the ones of us that weren't in it, probably it even goes over our heads and we forget it even sooner, and that's kind of sad because you never know. But planning and preparation for disasters. I've said this before, and I'm going to keep harping on it. But and report all fires. When it's freezing cold, and I'm not trying to knock the people that are trying to keep from freezing to death out there. Build a little campfire because it's rainy and then it's cold, and even before the rains, and they're building little fires. We got reports out there in Ireland that behind Lowe's there was little fires out there and along the freeway, and so. But you got to report them all because they can get away. The sparks can create worse. Now that I've covered that, we're going to get into. I already talked about disaster calamity form. That is a temporary reduction in value, by the way. It's until you. So when the house burns down, it may take a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and some of them.
Yeah, if your house is it's a liability because you got to pay to remove debris and stuff like that. It's not worth anything. It's actually a liability, not an asset.
And I say they should lower the land value too. See, in the past, a lot of the assessors, with the state approval, that's the way they wanted it done. They just took the structure value off. But I'm saying, hey, there is definitely a minus in the land value.
Well, especially like in older neighborhoods, where houses burn down. Sometimes there's lead paint on the walls or painted over lead paint. There's all kinds of toxics everywhere. Glues in the wallpaper, in the carpeting. There's toxins and things like that burn up, and that stuff all burns up. And then rains come or whatever, it washes into the soil, and they have to get rid of that soil. They got to clean that area and make it safe again. So all that costs money, and so it's not only land value, it's the liability of getting it cleaned up.
I would hope that the insurance companies would not only pay for rebuilding the structure, but doing some of that cleanup and everything, that removal and all.
Insurance companies will get out of anything they can possibly get out of. I got to tell you, and you can't blame them. I mean, here they are. This calamity hits an entire city. What was the name of the city down by the beach? I just lost it. I need to take some Previn. Palisades, Pacific Palisades. All that stuff is going to wash into the ocean.
They're worried about that, and it's happening.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's terrible.
I would think that they would suspend property tax. I would think they'd take it down to zero.
Well, on those houses, they certainly should lower the land value. And I know, I've had some recent arguments with some people from other counties that's in the business. And
his son is a tax assessor in Riverside County.
He's not the assessor, but anyway.
He's not. He's one of them. Yeah.
And
I'm sure that argument is correct.
And I didn't say who that I was having that with. In fact, I've had a number of arguments on that. So, because first of all, on your normal assessment you have for the land, you have an improved lot assessment.
Yeah.
It's an improved rate with utilities and everything, and utilities are included in the land value. Well, you can't use those utilities; they're burned up too.
Why haven't you had your son on your show yet? You should have your son on. I'm stirring things up here.
I don't think he would do it, and I don't want to get him in trouble either way because.
Yeah.
But I get we kind of throw things at each other to to sound off. And
If that table at Coco's in Redlands could talk.
But you know me, I'm on the side of the homeowner. I'm a property owner. I'm all out there to
That's
try
right.
to help them.
That's right.
And in any way I can do it, I will.
Got about 3 minutes, Don.
Well, I got all these things to talk about. Proposition 8, decline in value forms that we're going to have. We have them. Homeowners exemption forms. By the way, your mobile home park, I guarantee, I bet you 70%, and I'm not counting I'm talking about the ones that are on the property tax system, not the ones that are on the DMV system. I'll bet you 70% of them that could qualify for it don't have it. Anyway.
I don't know. That would be an interesting study, but yeah.
The Veterans Organization exemption, those are difficult exemptions, and the church exemption is a difficult one. I suggest even when the people get the exemption form, and they got to read the information sheet, they got to read the instruction sheet. And I'm suggesting if they don't have an expert, a CPA or somebody that can help fill that form out, they need to get to the assessor's office.
And my point, and your point too, is this. Don't wait until after it happens, on the rainy days when it's raining, to figure out, do you have this exemption? Do you have this insurance? Do you have fire insurance? A lot of people are surprised to find out that maybe they don't have fire insurance because their insurance company canceled it, and you've got to get the California supplemental.
I was just checking out one that I got because the insurance companies are getting aerial photographs, and they're looking for trees. Although you people that on your residences as well as rentals don't matter, and they're looking for trees that are up against the building, or the limbs are touching the roof, and they're checking out the roofs, and they're looking down from above, and they've sent notices out.
Yeah, or cancel their insurance and everything else. It's
Well, they give you a chance. They usually give you a chance, enough warning to try to cure the problem, but otherwise you're stuck with what you said about the fair plan.
Yeah, the prayer plan. Corporations are not people. They have no conscience. If they get in trouble, there's no corporation goes to jail. That sort of thing. So you got to defend against that. My uncle had insurance for 30 years with an insurance company. I won't say State Farm, but I won't tell you who it was. But he was by Searchlight coming down a two-way lane highway, and a rather intoxicated service member from a nearby Marine base was there, and he hit my uncle head on. Car flew over, helicoptered out of there. He almost was killed. And the insurance company was not paying off.
Because he was drunk?
Not because my uncle was drunk. My uncle was not drunk.
No, I mean because one of them was, yeah.
Yeah, and they had to, and his insurance company wasn't paying him either. They were only paying him so much. And so he had to go into court and sue him, and of course, he won, and he's much better off today than he was. But it takes a lot of stuff to do, and a lot of court and lawyers and time and everything else. So you want to make sure that you've got if you're paying this money, he paid to this company his home mortgage insurance, on his home when he paid his home off for years and years and years. He lived in San Bernardino, moved to Colorado Springs, where his 3 sons went to the Air Force Academy. He paid insurance to that company for years and years and years. And then when they were needed in the rainy day, they're like, oh, we're not paying it. So he had to go get a lawyer.
Wow.
So sometimes when you have insurance, what you really just have the right is to sue them. And that kind of blows your mind, huh? We are at the end of this segment.
Or you can look at any billboard, and it'll say, call so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so.
That's right. I could think of a few, but I'm not going to say their names.
I'm not saying their names either.
Because they need to pay for us to do that. But anyway, Don, we're coming to the end of the first half.
Already, and I didn't get through half of them.
So bring in the music. Here we go. We're going to go into the spots. We'll be right back with George after this, in just a few messages on KCAA, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, the stations that leave no listener behind. We'll be back with the Don Williamson Taxsaver and more show right after this.
This is KCAA.
A Seattle hip-hop pioneer who discovered 80s and 90s rap legend Sir Mix-a-Lot has died.
Baby got ballet feet with the open booty. The Seattle Times reporting Nasty Ness Rodriguez died Saturday in L.A. at the age of 63. His cause of death is not yet clear. Seattle native Sir Mix-a-Lot says he credits Rodriguez with discovering him and helping him get his music out to the rest of the world. He also DJ'd for West Coast Radio's first dedicated hip-hop show, Fresh Tracks. I'm Monica Nelson.
And Fish is expanding their lead on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame fan ballot.
Down with disease, 3 weeks in my bed, trying to stop these demons that keep dancing in my head.
More than 100,000 Fish heads have cast their votes for the group. Billy Idol is second with almost 59,000 votes, followed closely by Soundgarden with just over 57,000. Cyndi Lauper holds down fourth place with just over 50,000 votes. Bad Company, Joe Cocker, and Chubby Checker round out the top 7, and they're the only other nominees with at least 40,000 votes. The top 7 finishers on the fan ballot, up from the top 5 in previous years, will be included with all of the ballots for the official vote. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
Actor Tom Holland says his ID was rejected at Target while attempting to buy his own non-alcoholic beer brand. In an Instagram post, Holland said his United Kingdom ID was turned down when he tried to buy his brand Bureau. That's entertainment. I'm Jacqueline Carl.
KCAA.
Tehibo Tea Club's original Pure Pau de Arco Super Tea helps build red corpuscles in the blood which carry oxygen to our organs and cells. Our organs and cells need oxygen to regenerate themselves. The immune system needs oxygen to develop, and cancer dies in oxygen. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system, and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1-pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit TehiboTeaClub.com. Tehibo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy, O, then continue with the word tea and then the word club. The complete website is TehiboTeaClub.com, or call us at 818-610-8088. Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
106.5 FM and KCAA 1050 AM.
KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM. The talk of the Inland Empire, Southern California's superior supercalifragilisticexpialidocious talk radio station. I'm Mark Westwood, and we're here today on the Don Williamson Taxsaver and More show. And now, ladies and gentlemen, with no further ado, Don Williamson.
Well, thank you, Mark, for that great introduction again, as usual. Since we do have a guest speaker, I'm going to put some of this other aside. I was prepared to go the whole distance, but I just met him here not too long ago, and his first name is George Slivka. Did I say that right?
Close, yeah, Slivka.
Slivka.
You should have heard the last guest. It was really, I just butchered that name too, so I let him introduce you. George Slivka.
Slivka.
That's easy.
Awesome.
And he's got, I heard him just a little bit, and he lives in Rancho Cucamonga, and he has some sort of a plan that could maybe help him out. So I hope they're listening. And since you are a resident there, I think you got a right to like or dislike and express your opinion as to what's going on.
I think so too.
So almost like, if you don't mind me saying so, what I've observed in Rancho Cucamonga is it's like two different cities almost in one. So you have the upper end of, towards the mountains, Rancho Cucamonga, and Chaffee and Upland and all that, and it's a really nice area, really affluent area. And then you have the area that's closer to Ontario that's not as affluent. Is that a fair assessment?
That's pretty fair, and it's actually 2 assembly districts as well. So the area above the 210 in the mountains is actually in the assembly district with Pasadena, La Cañada, over Claremont. And then below the 210, it's in the district with Fontana over down to Riverside.
That's Assembly District 57, I think.
Yeah, 57. Yeah, and then I'm up in Assembly District 41.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we got a lot of different districts in the area.
Okay. That tells me where you live now. I know exactly where you live. Oh, sort of. Okay, go ahead, Don.
Well, when you mentioned Chaffee College, I immediately set up, because that's my whole alma mater, first of all, and that's where Altaloma was. Did you know that was incorporated? And I think
Yeah.
Etiwanda might be incorporated in it.
Etiwanda,
too.
Altaloma, and Cucamonga were all incorporated together to make Rancho Cucamonga back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day.
Is that a little bit of history that you just learned?
Yeah, I didn't know they were all different things.
You know, have you ever heard of, I don't know exactly how you're old, but you look kind of younger. Have you ever heard of Jack Benny?
I've heard the name. Not sure who he is.
He made Cucamonga famous. And they were at a train station in California, and they were getting ready to depart to go across the United
You're
States.
going to talk about Cucamonga.
And the train announcer was, "Ladies and gentlemen, please board the train for Etiwanda, Altaloma, and Cucamonga." And he said that several times, and it just, everybody thought that was really kind of a neat name. So across the United States, people were going, Cucamonga. So you couldn't get rid of Cucamonga's name in that, so it had to be Rancho
Yeah, they
Cucamonga.
said all those stops and then Cucamonga, yeah.
Another little thing about cities, this is a very interesting one. Do you know how the city of Azusa got its name Azusa?
No.
A lot of people think it's an Indian tribe. Sounds like an Indian tribe, right? You know, Yamava, Azusa, right? It's not. It's so simple. Everything from A to Z in the USA. Azusa.
Oh, wow.
That's really simple. You know, everything. So every city has its history. Now, I'm the president of the Native Sons of the Golden West. So is Don. He's a member of the Native Sons of the Golden West. We're a historical organization and lots of local history, so we get into that kind of stuff. So that's why I know that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's kind of neat.
Very neat.
Yeah.
Very good president, too, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you. Shucks. Okay, I'll step out of the way. This is your interview, sir.
But Azusa, when you brought that up, I took a sit up, too, because I worked for the Santa Fe for a while. It was they trained us to help run and the little agencies, train agencies, the railroad agencies, and they had one in Cucamonga. Or no. Azusa. And I used to take Foothill. Those days they didn't have stoplights on every street like they do now, every corner, and I used to drive up Foothill all the way to Azusa.
So, of course, San Bernardino takes its name from St. Bernardine. It's one of the 32 mission cities in California. Santa Barbara, San Bernardino, San Diego, right? But what's very interesting is there's two San Bernardinos. At the base of the Swiss Alps is another city of San Bernardino.
All right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I also worked in San Bernardino at Santa Fe.
Yeah, a lot of us, we know this history because we lived it, right? We lived it, Don.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, anyway, so it's very interesting. You have a plan for Rancho, and you know, I've always thought of Rancho as being this highly developed, pretty modern, newly formed city. I remember, sir, driving out Highland Avenue, and there was like grape fields everywhere. I'm sure you've heard this, right? It didn't seem that long ago to me. It was in the 80s, early 90s. You know, Fontana, and the next stop, you know, maybe West Covina, and everything in between was up and down hills and gas station four corners and that sort of thing. And then Rancho Cucamonga popped up. It seemed like overnight out of nowhere. And in all that development, it was mainly private development. And you know, sometimes when that happens, there's not a planning. So is that what you detect? And that's why you have a plan for Cucamonga? I mean, Rancho Cucamonga?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the cities are definitely designed to be very car-centric. And the more we turn into like a dense urban place, there's more people that are wanting things that work without vehicles, you know?
So what you're saying, pedestrian traffic? Pedestrian?
Exactly.
Pedestrian friendly? Maybe live workspaces?
Yeah, definitely that.
Okay. I see you have a little list there.
Yeah, I do have a little list. So yeah, we're in an interesting time, just generally in America, and we're even the people in Rancho Cucamonga. I go door to door a lot. I canvass for different things, and even in our area, the affluent part, one of the number one issues that people are having is food costs. And so one of the ideas I've been working on for a while is trying to get fruit trees planted onto our streets. Because we spend a lot of money as a city, all the cities, to maintain all of these plants, but none of them are providing anything besides appearance, and most of them aren't even native, so they're not even supplying food to the birds here. And so that's a project that I've been working on, and I've been going door to door in my area because one of our trees just fell. So we're going to try to get that tree replaced with a fruit tree. We're trying to figure out which one, but that's a cool thing because anyone anywhere can do something about that. So in Rancho Cucamonga, we have a city council meeting on the first and the third Wednesday of every month. So if you want fruit trees in your street and on your streets, you just got to go to your city council, tell them, well, why don't we have fruit trees? What are we paying for? And
Speak up.
Exactly.
Let your voice be known. Sometimes you put an idea in their heads that they never had. I live in Yucaipa. Don, I don't know if you knew this. It was in the newspaper last week. I went to the city council meeting about something totally other, and they were having a debate whether they're going to build a library. And they have a $9 million federal grant, matching grant to do that. And they had raised $6 million of it. And of course, they have a city budget crisis, kind of manufactured in my opinion. But you know how that goes. It's like people don't get it. Anyway, they were thinking about throwing it all out and not building the library, which they're going to build a library right next to Yucaipa High School. And so we got to stave off and to table it and talk about it more. But sometimes city councils don't have ideas of their own. They're not very creative. So one of the things I said is, the land underneath the library that's currently there, built out of cinder blocks and is like 50 years old and very small, and what was the original sheriff's station on the corner of 5th and Yucaipa Boulevard, that land parcel is in the middle of the downtown section. Let's sell that. Let's get rid of those old buildings. And while you're doing that, you can get that money and you can then match that grant funds for that library. And there's a Citibank building in the middle of the town. It's large enough and big enough. It's empty. It's been empty for years. Move the library in there temporarily. And that, it was like lights went off in a couple of the council members' heads. And now they're talking about it. They're actually talking about moving the library to the Citibank building, refurbishing it, spending some money there because it's a newer building. And whether they build a new library or not, at least they'll have a bigger library. And, they can do something with that. So sometimes I went there for another reason. I was getting appointed to a committee, a city commission, and I had to be there to talk. And they voted on it, and I wound up coming up with an idea that they took. So I'm kind of proud of that. And then I didn't even think about it anymore. People started calling me because the newspaper picked it up.
They said, Mark,
That's
did
right.
you know?
But community gardens and, sustainable living and, why can't we have food and gardens that we can make, if we go into a depression or something like that, and, that's what happened in the Depression area, people who had seeds, even seeds were wealthy people, and the feudal system, which, okay, well, I told you I wouldn't get political. In the feudal system, that was a valuable thing. It was the commodity that people traded with
That's
seeds.
far enough back you can do that.
Yeah, so, why not, if you want to sustain yourself and you want to survive what may be coming in our direction, maybe you should have a garden.
Yes, it's definitely good to plant trees. And I always like to remind people, if you're going to plant a fruit tree, try to plant it somewhere that the people in your neighborhood can reach it. So it's for everyone, because no one can consume everything from one tree when it all comes,
And what we learned in the last session, the last segment of this, don't plant a tree next to your house because the insurance company will come and cancel your insurance because it's a fire hazard. But okay, yeah,
Good.
So you have this list here. I'm intrigued by that list. I know you have a lot of things to talk about.
Yeah, one of the other projects I'm working on in Rancho Cucamonga, up in that affluent area, there's a lot of houses with very large lands of property, and those are really good school districts. So one of the ideas I've been canvassing for is tiny towers, and we've already gotten some interest of people that are interested in having these on their land, and that's like a tiny home. Have you two heard of tiny homes?
Oh, of course.
I've
Yeah.
been checking into one for my backyard, but go on.
Oh, very nice. Yeah. So
I'll tell you, my first radio studio for KQLH, which is our sister station that I own, I built it in a cargo container in Yucaipa,
nice.
and electrical and all that. It wasn't a tiny home; it was a tiny studio, but it was 40 feet long by 12 feet wide
and portable.
And I'm very much an advocate of those things.
And heavy.
Oh yeah, and secure, by the way. Boy, I shut those doors and locked that thing down. You're gonna have to have a blowtorch to get into it. So
Yeah, I saw a great semi truck that was towing like a mobile home thing on it, and it was so rigged out. It had like a little garage on the side of it, so little cars can go into it.
oh, that's cool. That's cool.
But
You can stack them. You can put them together. They're very strong. A lot of cities don't like them, though.
The aesthetics, yeah.
Well, they told me for my studio I had to build make it look like a house on the outside. I'm like, okay, but, that's this ridiculous. It's a lot of wasted money to make it look it was behind a building. Nobody would see it anyway. But anyway.
Yeah.
I digress.
City codes, they get annoying with that. But yeah, it's a good time for the tiny homes because Newsom just opened up a green light with secondary dwelling units on properties in response to all the goings on.
Called ADUs.
Yeah, ADUs, yeah, accessory dwelling units. But the idea with the tiny tower is to take that tiny home footprint, so sometimes they're like 12 by 8, sometimes 14 by 24, and then make it 3 floors tall. So that way it adds like an aesthetic to the neighborhood, like a tower that goes over the house, and then it also is adding living space. You can get 2 to 3 rooms in there, smaller rooms, tiny rooms, but so you could get a family or depending on who's going to live there. But that's the idea in our area because we have those good schools and because so many people in our area, as I go door to door, I see a lot of them. We're still around, so we need more space for the students.
The first part of the show we were talking about fires and the disaster and all that stuff. That might be a temporary alternative for people in Altadena and Pacific Palisades and places like that. Because you really can make mansions out of this. You can stack them sideways. I've seen a church that was made out of those. They put the 2 cargo containers side by side. They stacked them up two on top of each other, and then they built a roof from one to the other. And the inside of that was the worship space, and everything else was the offices. So it's pretty interesting stuff.
That's a good idea. Yeah, the cargo containers. They have done some interesting structures with that. I've actually been in a restaurant that was built out of those.
Oh wow!
And then they had the inside empty part, and then they used the outside. So yeah, it's like blocks.
Yeah, if you got the land, additional dwelling units or accessory dwelling units. I'm not sure what it is, but yeah, that's kind of cool. They should have an area that just like anything else, a business district or whatever. If they don't want them intertwined with their housing or whatever, which is usually the argument, the aesthetics of people not in my backyard. They call them NIMBA.
Yeah.
NIMBYA or whatever, not in my backyard. But, let's make an area that they can be. And, the same thing with everything. Everybody deserves a space.
I got a 40 by 40 vacant lot
40 by 40 vacant lot?
on the old Route 66 in Rialto.
Oh, yeah? Yeah.
Could fit a number of tiny homes on there.
The old mine's cranking.
Oh, yeah. Get Don started and we're in trouble. Come down the hallway. Mark, I got an idea. I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah. But
Don's a great guy.
Speaking of the fires, that's the goal with these is to design them like a tower. So like a skyscraper with the metal beams, so they'd be much smaller ones. But then just like if you've ever been to the courthouse in Rancho Cucamonga, it's actually designed on rubber a platform, so it's earthquake proof. And so to make these tiny towers, if you do them with these metal beams, then you can build them out of either like the concrete or the stone, like you were saying with the fireplaces. I thought the same thought. Why don't we make them all like fireplaces? And that way you could build stones like taller if you do that metal interior. So we are in the design stage. So if you're an architect and you're interested in playing around with some tiny home designs as little skyscrapers, let us know.
Absolutely. There's all kinds of design ideas, alternatives, and if those homes were made in Pacific Palisades or Altadena or the Eaton fire out of those steel cargo containers, and those ashes and embers hit it, so
What's going to happen when a 7.5 earthquake hits it? Is it going to fall on you?
Well, he's talking about the tower?
No, I'm talking about those heavy containers.
Well, they're pretty solid. They're pretty solid.
I know they are.
Yeah. Just like any other building.
But the 7.5 and 8 earthquake, which we don't have no 8, I don't think, but the 7.5, that just about move almost anything.
Well, yeah. Well, there's nothing earthquake-proof when really Mother Nature wants to get rid of something. But these when they stack them like that, they bolt them together and weld them together, and they're heavy. They're heavy.
Well, I know.
It's going to be hard to. They might bounce a little bit. They might move, but there is all kinds of building stuff. I'm sure. I'm not an engineer.
You could put those on a rubber base.
When they built Arrowhead Regional Medical Center on Waterman, is that Waterman?
Nope, it's out on Pepper.
Pepper. They built that thing to sway with the earthquake, and it's supposed to be able to withstand an 8.
Little known fact, you might not know or remember, they built that thing and the welders and all the steel beams and everything, and they went with the lowest bidder, and they came in and inspected it, and they said, uh-oh, all of these welds in this hospital are not good, and they had to go back in and re-weld all the welds. You remember that? Cost a fortune.
They had overruns and overruns, or changes and changes, and I'm not going to tell you what happened to one of the employees at the top. That
Oh, I would bet. All owned by the Leonard family, that land under there.
didn't know that.
Yeah. Funny how that works. County supervisor owns land. Hospital moves from San Bernardino to Rialto. I think that's Rialto or Colton.
Now back to your idea there in Rancho Cucamonga.
About the tiny homes, yeah, and then tiny homes are just cool in general because if you do them like just out of the wood, they are transportable. But yeah, we're working on that, and so right now we're looking for people that are interested in having them on their properties, and then also people to help kind of start the design part.
I'm going to share this with you too. I eventually moved out of that, as you can tell, that portable thing, and I sold it. I sold it on Craigslist to a guy named George Litchfield. Anyway,
nice.
On Craigslist. But when we moved it there, and then we moved it, and when we moved it onto the site, I had redone the whole side. We put in paneling, we put in air conditioner, we put in an electrical sub panel, flooring, lighting, everything. It was really done up nice. And so when we moved it, I wasn't sure, but yeah, I did. We pulled the tow truck up with a flatbed truck, put it right under the flatbed truck, lowered it, and off it went.
Awesome.
In about 30 minutes. Of course, I didn't have any plumbing hooked to it. If you had to use the restroom in those studios, you had to hike down the street. But,
Yeah, plumbing makes things tricky.
Are those tiny houses like prefabs, manufactured homes, or are they, or do you go from stick, just plain old sticks? In other words, lumber.
It depends. I have heard stories of people, especially in disaster response, just like setting up shop and making a bunch of prefab tiny homes that they could just kind of ship off in like large parts. You can do it all different ways, but yeah, the tiny homes are like the whole thing's a movement that people are like just living small, But definitely around here, I think we have the tools and materials to make them out of like cement.
you can build them
rocks.
incredibly inexpensively for what you're getting, or you can spend a ton of money on them too.
Yeah.
Just depends on what you want. China is making them now. That's where all the cargo containers coming from is China, right? Well, they just said, hey, we'll just make our own tiny homes and send them over to you the same way. So that's starting to happen too. And yeah, I'm sure like anything else, but you can build those things. And what a great alternative to people who are housing challenged or homeless or unhoused. If we really wanted to do this, George, I don't know if you're familiar with this area or not, but we have 2 parks on either side of this building. One's a beautiful park with a lake and everything, and the other one's is recreational and stuff. And homeless people. We had 2 homeless encampments here, and they cleared them all out recently. And where did they wind up? They wound up at a potter's field at the end of a cemetery over by Waterman Avenue, just about 3/4 of a mile from here. And they're literally sleeping on graves.
Oh my goodness.
I heard that.
But then right across the street, we have huge amounts of land. So why don't we just set them up like that? And they don't have to be really fabulous homes, but they could be livable, clean, with, they could have, like a campus with, shared showers and toilets and all that kind of stuff. And then the bedrooms and stuff around them. Anyway, I only have about 5 minutes. I'm going to shut up. This is your interview. And this is Don's interview. So
Continue.
Yeah, definitely we want to help with the homeless in this area. I know they get kind of moved over. But the last thing I wanted to mention for this region is for consolidating housing, like we were saying, the Highland Street, how the 210 was built and then it kind of just got cut off, and then a lot of the houses were removed. So one of the ideas that this is still an idea, but for this region is what I call hillments, and that's going over the freeways and building apartments over the freeways. So kind of going 50 feet up, building 3 to 4 floors of probably condos, and then over that,
what a great idea.
You put a park. So then when you're walking down the street, you're just walking over a park to the other side and then you walk down to the shopping center. And also that you could use this to go over the warehouses, because warehouses are a really big hot topic in this area. People don't like them. They don't want them. So if we just, put something over it, and then when you look at it from afar, you see like a hill.
Very
it would
innovative.
improve temperatures in the area, improve energy costs of cooling that stuff, and then also it's just more secure having the hills to kind of block any.
Out in Calabasas, which we mentioned Calabasas earlier, there's a land bridge. It's there for no reason other than to let wild animals go back and forth. Well, if you can do that, you certainly can do what you're talking about.
Yeah, that was the inspiration, and I said, why not just make it big and then put people's houses inside?
I like it. Good, innovative ideas. That's what we need. More people like George. Don't you agree, Don?
I agree. You got a good idea. Maybe somebody out there will listen to it, and maybe their city council or whatever, and they might just bring it up, and who knows?
And you know what happens a lot of times too is you have a great idea, right? And you try to get this going, and then some guy goes, "Oh, I have a great idea too. I heard it from George, but I can make money on it, and I've got money, and I don't know. Maybe it's maybe a money-making idea, but at the same time, it is definitely a sustainable idea, because all that area that a freeway goes through, go over the top of the freeway.
Right, you can get some vineyards back in here.
There you go. And in Redlands, we have orange trees along some roads, and then we're not allowed to pick the oranges.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm like, what?
What the heck is, San Marino, the Redlands own it, or the county owns it, and what are they doing with the oranges? They're picking them. Sure they are. And they're selling them. But, why can't you have a community garden?
Right.
We've had them before.
Well, when the founding fathers made this country and they were talking about life, liberty, and happiness, you could go into the forest and you could harvest the wood for your house and the food for your dinner. And now all the forests have been made private. So, it's just a way to kind of, give back, the right to life we were, fighting for.
Life, liberty, I say justice, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what, we need to shoot for. And especially in these days, some people need to be reminded of that. And they forget it too easily. I'm not going to get political, Don. I promised you I wouldn't get political. But, just because your cell phone works, or your smartphone works, or your smart device, or, you can turn on the TV, or you can get the interwebs, doesn't mean that things are perfect or good or in good order. That just means people are making money on that still. Don't become too comfortable. Stand up for your rights and say, this is all of our areas and our forests and our lands and everything else, and they need to become resources for everybody. And there is so much open space. Yes. If you drive from Sacramento to California, you realize it. It's just like, wow.
There's a song that says, "This is my country."
Yep. This is my land. This is your land. From Alabama to California. Yeah, okay, don't make me sing. Anyway, Don, we're coming to the end of the show.
We're here. Thank you, George, for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Don. Thanks for having me, Mark.
Don is the chillest host of the radio show I've ever seen. He's like, yeah. Hey, George, Slivka.
You
George
corrected me, and then you said it wrong.
No, I didn't. Anyway, thanks for being on here. It's a pleasure talking to you. Stick around. And Don, take it away.
I hope you've learned something. I've got more to say, but no time to say it in.
That's why we have another show.
God bless you all out there.
That's why we have another show. KCAA 1050 AM, the Inland Talk Express, with Eric Casario at the helm. And this has been the Donald Williamson Show, Taxsaver, and more. And we'll see you next Thursday at 3 p.m. right here on KCAA, where we'll all be quiet and we'll let Don go for an entire hour.
Or I may have another guest speaker.
Oh, there you go. Take it away.
NBC News on KCAA Loma Linda is sponsored by Teamsters Local 1932, protecting the future of working families. Teamsters1932.org.